Okay, so today my talk is about immunity from within, harnessing the power of a healthy gut. Essentially, what I'm going to go through here is the link between the gut and the immune system. First of all, a bit about how did I get here today. It all started from my own health issues that arose after a trip backpacking in India in the 90s with my husband John. And I happened to get Giardia and I was really quite unwell. So the plan was to be away travelling for 6 months, and within 2 weeks I got Giardia. And the second picture is 6 months later, we arrived back in Australia and I had lost about 12 kilos and my gut was quite bad. And it wasn't until I came back and saw a naturopath that I was put on a good path of health. I learnt a lot about diet. I learnt how much, I guess I experienced firsthand, the effect of nutrition and supplementation on healing my gut. But I was so passionate about it, it wasn't until after I had our third son that I had this realisation that I wanted to go off and study to become a naturopath. And so I did 4.5 years study. I got my degree, and the bottom picture is when I first started in clinical practice. The first place that I practiced from was in Payneham, and I also started practicing from a chemist in Kapunda. And then 11 years later, here I am. So I guess today what I'm going to talk about is an overview of what the digestive system does, and then I'm going to give you 2 case studies showing the impact of digestive health on immune health, and a bit of a summary and my ideal referrals. So what does the digestive system do for us? Well, it's the major site of digestion and absorption of nutrients, and that's mainly occurs in the small intestine. And the small intestine is 7 metres long, and each square metre of the surface contains these little finger-like projections, which you can see in the second diagram. They're called villi, and they sort of like finger-like projections, and then out from that are microvilli. And an interesting fact, the geek in me, is that if you were to spread out the whole of the intestine, would you know what the surface area of the whole of the gut, if it was opened up and spread out? It's actually 250 or more square metres, which is equal to that of a tennis court. So that's the absorptive area of the gut. Then we move on to the large intestine, and that's where fecal matter goes through, and there's waste. We do absorption of water. We also absorb a lot of our minerals. And of course, the important part on our immunity is the microbiome. And the microbiome is referred to the collection of flora, our gut flora, within the large intestine. They have lots of roles. They're making B vitamins, vitamin K. The bacteria interact with our immune system, and they produce food for the colonocytes, which are the cells in the large intestine, and they're called short-chain fatty acids. Quite often, if we're doing a stool analysis, we look at how well your body is, or those flora are making those short-chain fatty acids, because that is a key marker of health. Okay, so signs and symptoms that we have imbalance in the gut flora, which is known as dysbiosis. We might get bloating, we might get stomach pain, we get changes in stool form, and quite often a lot of health conditions that people present with can be related back to dysbiosis or an imbalance in the gut flora. What causes that? Medications, antibiotics, stress, alcohol, keto diet is very low in vegetables, and the gut flora need fibre. So when we're having a keto diet, it's quite low in fibre, which starves our gut flora. And of course, processed foods, trans fats. Okay, case study number 1. So Diane came to me and she had digestive complaints. She had a lot of bowel urgency, bloating, gas. 8 months prior, she'd been diagnosed by her doctor. She'd done a stool test and she had Dientomycin fragilis. She was treated with 2 rounds of antibiotics. Her symptoms improved, but they did come back. So what was most interesting to me was the health history. 4 years prior, she had silicosis, she had glandular fever, she had cytomegalovirus, pneumonia, and then that all preceded being diagnosed with this parasite. I was quite sure, because her symptoms had come back, that she still had the parasite. And if you look on the left, the results of her test shows that it was detected, Dientomycin fragilis. It's a bit controversial, this parasite, because it does exist in people without gut issues. But for some individuals, they're very unwell, and she was quite unwell. The diagram on the right is actually showing what's inside the gut lumen. What you see there are the cells, the enterocytes. They have roles in our immune system, but in the gut lumen we have secretory IgA, which is an antibody that helps defend against pathogens and viruses. When people are stressed and they're run down, that is compromised, and when secretory IgA is low, then that allows opportunity for pathogens and parasites to proliferate. So essentially her gut immunity was really low. So I try to do gut healing with nutrients, aloe vera, reduce starches, sugars, increase fibre. She didn't get much improvement. So the outcome of that was I had to do 2 rounds of 8 weeks of a parasite protocol. And it took a long while, but she eventually had complete resolution of her gut symptoms. So you can imagine that doing it herself was not going to be enough. Case study number 2, Penny. So Penny came in actually last year, and she was a social worker and she had lots of food sensitivities. And she came to me because her diet had become really restrictive. So salicylates are natural occurring chemicals in lots of healthy foods, but she couldn't tolerate a lot of healthy foods, vegetables, fruits high in salicylates. She couldn't have tomatoes, she couldn't have dairy, she couldn't have onion, broccoli, whole list of foods. And she'd come to the end of it. She was tired of not eating out, tired of not being able to eat much. She also had chronic joint pain. So I gave her some diet recommendations. She had to have a protein with each meal, include over 600 grams of non-starchy vegetables a day. Why is that? Because it feeds our gut flora. And there were no processed foods. So within 3 weeks, she had been following my recommendations quite well, and I had also given her supplements, gut healing supplements, a specific probiotic, and compound broccoli sprouts with sulforaphane. So 3 weeks later, she had started introducing some berries. 6 weeks later, she had got more game, introducing more foods and no reactions. And by 10 weeks, she was symptom-free, and she'd introduced 90% of the foods back in her diet. Christmas was the big tester. She came in after Christmas. We did a final consultation. She's over the moon. She's able to bring back foods that have been excluded from her diet for years. And she gave me a 5-star review. My ideal referrals are physiotherapists, counsellors, psychologists, personal trainers, chiropractors, and massage therapists. Thank you very much for listening.